Welcome, everybody, to UFO Man Live. My name is Tim, and my co host tonight is Tom Reed from the famous Berkshire UFO encounter.
Good evening.
Welcome, Tom.
Hey, thanks.
Also, we have a very special guest tonight. His name is Dr. Lani. He is an aerospace engineer. He has his doctorate degree. He is a researcher, a contactee, an experiencer, a psychic, and he practices Stargate meditations, and in some cases teaches other people to do the same. So tonight we're going to dig into his background and learn a little bit more about Dr. Lani. Welcome, Dr. Lani.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, we're going to start with asking you about your background, and let's start from the very beginning of your story.
Yeah. Well, so as you said, I'm an aerospace engineer, and actually, what drove me to, let's say, to search this kind of career was a very unique experience. I was only 8 years old. I was living in Italy at the time. And the day, basically, together with my family, we saw a UFO. So what happened is we were standing on a balcony on the third floor of a building. And it was like a summer night of 1983. Around the 15th of August. I don't remember exactly the exact date. And basically, at a certain moment, we noticed that there is this metallic, glassy object that appeared out of nowhere in front of our balcony, something like 30 feet in front of us, and at the same level as our balcony. And initially, this object was still, so when we focus our attention on the object starts spinning immediately, becomes luminous, and while spinning, it basically progressively shrinks in size, till the point in which it basically disappears while emitting a flash of light. So there was no sound whatsoever. The whole sighting lasted a few seconds. One thing that I remember, because I kept my eyes locked at the object the whole time, is that when I was looking at the object, I could see that the background, let's say the landscape in the background, appeared as it was distorted. Actually, the object looked like it was in some sort of bubble, as you would look through glass. You know, if you look through glass, you see things distorted. So there was probably some sort of field able to somehow interact with the light, and also this glowing that I saw. I think was a side effect of the fact, some sort of side effects due to the fact that the object was spinning, and probably this is just an opinion that I have now after having worked with certain phenomena, but probably on the surface of the vehicle there were very high currents, electrical currents that were generating. And then they were able to ionize the air. So there was some sort of plasma shield that was formed as a side effect of the spin. What I can say is that even in sci-fi movies, I've never seen anything like that. So what I believe is that the object was actually generating some sort of portal right in front of my eyes, and through this portal actually disappeared. So yeah, if you see something like that, even if you are 8 years old, it changes a little bit your perception of reality, I would say. What I can say is that at the time I wasn't really into aliens or UFOs. I was more into horror movies actually. But so I actually forgot about this experience. But then, like 4 or 5 years later, so I was about 12, 13 years old, I was hosted by an uncle from the side of my mother. And basically, he told us his own experience during a night in 1983 in the same exact place, on the same exact balcony, but few weeks after we had already left. And what he saw was another object. This time it was not in front of him; it was high in the sky, and he saw him. He saw this object coming. So basically, he was rotating very slowly, and it looked like a conventional UFO. Like it had like a dome with multiple windows and multicolor lights that were coming out, and under there was some sort of disc. And he had the time to call the wife. They both look at the object, and it lasted maybe 30 to 45 seconds. And then during the night, and then at a certain moment, the object just increased the RPM, so the spinning became like a ball of red light and shot like a bullet. You know, he sped up like a bullet. And then during the night, both him and the wife had some sort of hallucination, kind of, or vision of some sort of being which was made of light and looking a bit like Jesus type, like with long hair and stuff. So after that, I was sort of hooked. I was like, oh, okay, but Ma, you remember we actually saw something in the same period. And then after that, yeah, I started researching, for what I could find at the time, like everything about, crop circles, alien UFOs, and other stuff. And I had to wait a little bit before I had other experiences. I don't know if you want me to go further, or you.
Well, I was wondering if you would like us to play your video now. We can do that. Give a little bit of a rundown on what
Oh,
you
sure.
went into. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, well, thank you for your video, Dr. Lani. I really appreciated it. I stretched it out so people could actually read it. I know it's not common to come on a live stream and do a lot of reading, but there's a lot of information that we need to cover. And I do have some overlays so that we can refer back to some of the things pictured in the video. So, Dr. Lani, do you want to tell us a little bit about your UFO sighting that we have a video of?
Yes. So actually, I have videos of a couple of sightings, but let's say the one that was also appearing partially in this presentation that occurred in Folkestone in UK. It was the 10th of August 2020, and it was some sort of special day because I had met a friend, actually a friend from Florida in London, and so we had already started doing meditations together and have some sort of deep connections with the cosmic beings. And basically, the first time that we met, she gave me some sort of Reiki session, and suddenly she went into some sort of state of channeling, and this being started talking through her, and it was one after the other. So in the same moment, I was feeling a strong energies throughout my body. I was having visuals, and then after this session, which I recorded, I have the full audio, 45 minutes of channeling of these beings and stuff. Then we went out, and I actually had been recommended to go visit in the Woolwich Tunnel. I don't know if you know about it. It's a tunnel in London. A lot of people who walked through this tunnel reported some time anomalies. And I wanted to see if I could have a similar experience. So we walk back and forth with the camera on all the time, and we didn't see anything special. But then later on, my friend went to the airport. Actually, I drove her to the airport, and then I drove back. I had to drive back from London to Belgium. And to do that, I had to cross this Eurotunnel. So basically, I arrive at the parking lot, and I'm still chatting with my friend. And at a certain moment, I send a message, and the time was like 22:24, so 10:24. Then I start driving towards the train, because actually you have to put your car on the train. And when I'm driving, I look up on my left, and I see this object, which was much larger than my car, probably 30 feet in length, or maybe more. I don't know. Of course, I couldn't stop because I was in the middle. I mean, I was in the middle of a queue of cars, so I had to drive. Sometimes I was stopping because of the traffic, but everything I took, like videos and photos, was done with mostly with one hand, kind of, you know. And anyway, so at the beginning, I see this object. I noticed the size, first of all, and then I noticed that on the side, it was like flat. It was like a flat object. I couldn't really say what was the actual shape because I was only seeing the side of it, okay? But on the side, I was seeing a lot of different lights. I would say 10, 12 of different colors. But then what struck my attention was that at a certain moment, I see a sort of plasma discharge going from one side of the object. So there was this blob of plasma that went from one side to the other, and then it dissipates in just one light. And actually, the video, one of the video that I let's say recorded, catches the moment in which this light is disappearing in one of this let's say plasma whatever blob is disappearing in one light. And then after that, you know, I enter in the train and I immediately record an audio for my friend. And the funny thing is that the time of my audio is like only 1 minute after my last message, while in the meantime I have driven probably for 10-15 minutes. And then if you go and check the timestamps on the photo and the video, actually it looks like the timestamp was like 7 minutes before the timestamp of the first photo is 7 minutes before my last message when I was still in the parking lot. So it looks like time went backward from 10:24 to 10:17 and then forward again to 10:25. So I actually caught some sort of time bending effect. And I know that this is sort of common phenomenon for even for pilots that, you know, got very close to UFOs. Most people speak about a time dilatation, like, but in my case, it was like a contraction. Instead of 15 minutes, I got 1 minute. So everything happened in that minute, according to my phone. So
okay, we got your video, so here we go.
Okay. This is one of the two that I shot,
Well,
but
it should come up. For some reason, it's not coming up. I don't know why that is. Add to stream.
oh, I see. Oh, maybe I can share it myself. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it is,
take it
yeah.
down and reload it, and
I
then
think
we
it's
can
there
put it
now.
up.
I see it there.
Oh, it won't work, so it's okay.
Okay, then I'll just try to.
I do
share it.
have a picture of it so that you can kind of. Oh, this is.
I will.
You put it in there wrong. You went through entering StreamYard. You need to do it under present.
Oh, okay. Let me see if this works. So now you should have it, I guess.
Oh, okay, hold on a second here. Okay, I don't want to do that. Okay. Add to stream.
Okay. So this light that you see is actually like a plasma discharge that just dissipates in one single light.
Those two lights above the power line?
Yeah, yeah. But at the beginning you see a more flashy light, and that was like what sucked up this sort of light.
You cannot see it very well in the recording, but it's changing. The lights are changing color now and then.
Unfortunately, I was driving, so yeah. Another thing that I can say is that yeah, I mean I took a few screenshots also. I mean a few pictures, but unfortunately with the phone you cannot really see too much. But another thing that I did is a sort of verification a posteriori, because I had the doubt. I said, okay, I saw this large object, but I want to be sure that there was no fixed structure at that height. You know, in the.
Dr. Lani, can you remove your video, please?
Oh, sorry. Like this?
There you go. Because
Okay.
I couldn't do it from my end. You were operating it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. yeah, so basically, I went looking for videos of people who drove, in the Eurotunnel, and they show that there is clearly no structure whatsoever at that height with that size. So I'm 100% sure. And also, I didn't see anything under the object, so I definitely saw that the object was just over in there, And so yeah, this was quite an intense experience.
Okay, you said in your bio that you're a contactee, so that must mean that you've had face-to-face contact with off-world visitors. Can you elaborate?
Well, face to face, let's say that I had different kind of contacts, but I never had an extraterrestrial in front of me, except for just one case, which is few weeks ago, in which basically waking up in the middle of the night, I saw this very tall white being that was almost looking like was wearing a robe, white, and it had some sort of spiral of blue energy around, and I opened my eyes, I see this being, I screamed, and he immediately disappeared. But apart from that, all my contacts have been through, let's say, in different ways. Sometimes I got touched by beings, by something after asking for an experience. Sometimes during meditation, I had energy flowing, or other people that were together with me saw things, I saw things. So it's more like my contacts are more like with beings that you connect with them, under meditation or under hypnosis.
So you're going to say that then you connected with this being under meditation.
Okay, this is a bit different story. So if you want, I can elaborate.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, in 2019, let's say after a series of I basically had to go for a conference in San Diego, and I decided to have let's say a one-to-one session in person with a YouTuber that I had been following for a while. Her name is Elizabeth April. She's an abductee, she's a contactee and psychic, and she also was the first one that I was following that was connecting all the dots between spirituality and ET contact and UFO and stuff. So at a certain moment, I decided to meet her in person and to have a session to see what she could see in my past, and also if she could explain some of my experiences, like this early contact when I was a child, plus some other contacts also with UFOs, and also some sort of abduction that I had during my mid-20s. And so during the session, at a certain moment, she said, "Okay, I see some of your past lives. You have been off planet most of the time and stuff like that." And she said, "I see this being behind you, and it looks like a giant mantis being, and he's one of your spirit guides." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting." And she told me a lot of things. But once the session was over, so also in this case, it was a 60-minute session that I recorded on audio, and exactly at 30 minutes 00 seconds, if I check the audio, basically you hear a conversation in which we were discussing a hummingbird that came into our space and basically flew against me, like almost attacking me. And then he turned in front of my face and then went straight against her. And then she moved away from the bird. And then at a certain moment, the bird, remained standing in between us, like a little helicopter just between me and her. So we continue the conversation. Why the hummingbird is important? Because later on, when I was going back from LA to San Diego, where I had the conference, I put on Google Gala mantis being. So she told me that the name of this mantis was Gala, Gala. And I put on Google, I said, okay, let's see what I find. And the first link that I found was connecting praying mantis with hummingbird, which I found pretty odd. It's a quite unusual combination. Is that if I was not putting Gala, which was the name of this entity, I was not finding this link. So that already attracted my attention. So it sounded like some sort of synchronicity. But then the night after, I was in San Francisco in the middle of the night, and I was a little sleepless. And so I look into the darkness, and I'm like, okay, Gala, if you're around me, give me a sign, okay? And what happens is that I fell asleep almost immediately, which was strange because I had been lying asleep for many hours. But okay, so I fall asleep on one side, and I wake up almost immediately feeling something touching my waist, like, and shaking me up. So at the beginning I screamed, and then I look around, and my first reaction is there is an earthquake or something, because I felt this vibration. But then I was like, yeah, but somebody really touched my waist, you know? And so I said, oh, wow, I had asked for a sign. Maybe it's another sign of contact. Then the story goes on. Like a month later, I developed some sort of skin infection, and so that day I decided to go to the doctor. And for fun, I was like, okay, let's go on Google and put Galamantis being. Maybe he has a message for me today. And the first link that I found this time was connecting mantis with parasites. And the doctor later told me that I had developed, you know, something from bacteria, and so she gave me like antibiotic. And then I was like, that's interesting, parasites, bacteria. So the day after, as a verification, I said, okay, let's try again, Galamantis being, and this time I didn't find any link to parasites. So it almost looked like sometimes there was some sort of connection which came in the most unusual ways, right? But then the most unusual was actually the picture that you showed. And this happened like 2 months later. I was like flying back home to Italy. And at a certain moment, I was the only one in the row seats on this flight. And I was the only one with the view right on top of the wing. And so I could see this scratch. And I mean, being an aerospace engineer, I really look outside all the time. And also, you know, about turbulence and stuff, you don't want to see damages on the wing. And so I took a picture. But then later on, when looking at the picture, I was like, oh, but this really reminds me of some sort of mantis. You know, you see a triangular head, you see 2 eyes, a little mouth or something, and especially this pose like that. And actually, I remember to have seen, yeah, the picture on the right, it's taken from a YouTube video of somebody who claimed to be a contactee of these beings. And I mean, if you are a painter and you are asked to paint the same being on a wing, you cannot do much better than the scratch, which, you know, I believe it didn't happen it happened for a reason, especially if you put it in context after all these other experiences that I told you. So what I figure out with this being and with other beings is that sometimes, yeah, they don't manifest in the physical, but they give you sign if you ask for them. And the signs are pretty like, you know, they make you laugh sometimes. They make you feel some sort of love from these beings. I can make other example. For instance, under meditation, once I see this big bird, like bird humanoid. And it was the first time that I saw this kind of being. And then after I get off from the park where I meditated, suddenly, I mean, I go taking a coffee in a bar where I normally go, and there is this baby magpie, so it's a kind of bird that comes around the tables, and then it comes biting my jeans, my trouser, my pants. I was like, I mean, this is so weird. I mean, this kind of bird typically are really afraid of people. And then on top of that, I go back home, and we found a baby bird of another kind that was strapped in our yard. So we actually took it home for the night because it was not able to fly out. And then I realized, well, you know, in the same day in which I see like a bird humanoid being, I have 2 close contacts with these birds that come out of nowhere, you know, and it never happened before, and it never happened after. So, you know, 3 birds kind of in the same day. Then another time, for instance, similar situation, I make contact with a feline being, feline humanoid that had the head of a white lion. I know that there are a lot of at least in the spiritual community, kind of, there are a lot of people who have contacts with these white lion beings, lions. They can look like lions, they can look like other kind of feline. But anyway,
Are you talking about the Lyrans?
yes.
Okay.
So basically, what came to me that specific day is that this being was a version of me that lives in the 12th dimension, and his name is Dion, Dyon. At least this is how it translated to me. And what happens is, after this meditation, I walk out of the park. It was another park, and I go towards downtown. I took a street that I normally don't take, and there is this shop, that sells old stuff like antiques, and it had two windows, and on each of the window there was a white lion head. I mean, isn't it funny? So I had a lot of this kind of experiences. Sometimes you have, I don't know, clouds that appear, and I also caught on camera that have the shape of I mean, other times when meditating, the other situation in which you understand that you are connected is that you have extraordinary energies flowing through your body. Sometimes they make your eyelids flicker, or part of your body move, and I'm not the only one having these experiences. A lot of the people also meditating with me have this kind of experiences. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm going to stop you for a minute and see what Tom's got to say. Tom?
I was, someone had mentioned something on chat too about synchronicities, and it's crazy, the synchronicities, the things that have aligned themselves with things that I have done as well. And I'm sure people in chat, and you're familiar with Yvonne Smith. She's been on Ancient Alien. She's regression. She's known for doing regression work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she actually was in the area, and she stopped by my house, and she tried to regress me. And, I live on a corner. There's lawnmowers, garbage trucks, school buses. There's no way I could do it. But I tried. And it was being filmed, too, for a documentary from Digital Films in San Diego. And I couldn't do it. I could not get myself that relaxed. I got a lot going on. My mind never slows down. However, for about 20 minutes or so, things were coming to me more clearly, but I was not under anything. Well, when we wrapped it up and said this isn't going to work, we came downstairs, and this is the craziest thing. I've got a double sliding glass door off to my kitchen where it goes to my upper deck.
Uh-huh.
And when we came downstairs, there was no light in the house. We're like, where's the light? Why is it so dark? And as we walked into or past the kitchen, we realized that the entire glass was covered with ladybugs. And they stayed there. We tapped on the glass, and all of a sudden they all went on their way. That has never happened to me ever again, and I've never heard of anyone having that happen to them. And it was the first time that I was just sitting there. I was, trying to re-enter my soul, re-enter my body, try to generate an energy, try to feed the brain a little bit, relax, disconnect.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I've watched the film later. I never went out. I was never under. But the idea that I think for a while, I was just able to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had come downstairs and walked to the kitchen, it was dark. And then we tapped on the glass, and all the ladybugs. It was crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah, there were 3 people there. Saw that. It was crazy. Who there had to be millions of ladybugs. I mean, it covered a huge double sliding glass door.
Amazing. But
So
birds, what I found also in my experience is that birds and some kind of insects or bugs, including ladybugs, but also dragonfly, for instance, butterflies, also bees. I mean, they are very sensitive to energy, and I think they are sensitive to magnetic fields. And when you energize yourself, when you increase your vibration, what changes is the magnetic field in your aura. So your aura can become huge. It expands literally, and become stronger, and so probably can affect also the navigation of some of these animals. But yeah, so and also birds and insects, bugs are also some sort of messengers. Also in ancient tradition, like Native American, they are considered messengers. Hummingbirds are considered messengers from the gods, for instance. So yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying.
But to give you an idea too, this wasn't like 70%. I mean, they blocked out all light to the house. There was no light coming in whatsoever.
Incredible.
And yeah, and never again. It's weird.
I gotta say this: if hummingbirds are messengers from the gods, I have issues because this summer I had a hummingbird keep visiting me every single night for a week, and it would come right in front of me and just sit there and flutter right in front of me and then take off
Wow.
every single night for a week. And my neighbor saw it too, and we even gave it a name. So it's like, it was weird because we saw it so often.
But did it bring you joy? I mean,
Oh, of course.
so
Yes. Hummingbirds are awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
In regards to synchronicities, when we were talking before the live stream, I mentioned to you that when you first met Sananda in your experiences, it was on my birthday, 3/13/2000. Let's see, what was that? 3/13. When
2020.
was that? 2022?
No, 2020.
Yeah, 3/13/2020. He took that picture there in 2000 during a Shaktipat meditation.
Wait, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, the story. So basically, this picture was shot by. Maybe you can show the picture. I don't know. So people.
I can show the bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? We seem to have lost our guest. He must have pushed the wrong button. He's unfamiliar with StreamYard, so when we get him back up, I'll bring him on. But Tom, what do you think of this so far?
It's interesting. I want to grab something real quick. I'll be right back. I want to show you something. Okay.
Okay. One thing I want to say is I found this on Facebook today, and I thought it was very interesting. I showed it to Dr. Lani originally, and he said that this does apply. Those creatures, quote unquote, they are spirits, but they're very upset. We are destroying their physical and spiritual home. They have no choice. They have to come into our physical world to get our attention, but they're very upset. That is the only way they can communicate that we are destroying their home, so they manifest physically. This was said by the Dalai Lama as told to Dr. John Mack. We got our guest back, so here he is.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, technical difficulty.
Okay. You're more than welcome. So I'll bring that picture back up and you can talk about it. Here we go.
Yeah. So actually, I got this picture back in 2001 from an uncle. What happened is he went to the south of Italy together with his wife, and they met this woman, a common friend, who was taking pictures of the sky during a pilgrimage. And what happened is that, and she was using an analogical camera, not a digital one. And what happened is that in the original film that they have to develop, at the end there was, instead of the sky, in one of the pictures, there was this face. And everybody was like astonished, including the guy who had to develop the film in the shop. And I asked my uncle to give me a copy of the picture, and I kept it in a book that I brought with me when I moved to Belgium for like 18, 19 years. And then I found this book back and I found this picture. I was like, oh, wow. I wonder what was this? I mean, I always thought it was either an extraterrestrial of some kind, maybe a Pleiadian or whatever, and or maybe a spirit. And then as you were saying, on the 13th March 2020, I was invited by a friend who is also a contactee. She has contact with many different races. She also channel under trans channeling, and she basically invited me to have an initiation to a Shakti path. So basically, she spent many years in India. She was initiated by some Swami, so kind of guru, and more than one actually. But she said, I would like you to be initiated as well, because your experiences may become stronger. And so we agreed to have a meditation together. It was like me, her. She's Belgian. She's like in her late 50s at the time. And then there were two other, a guy that was actually doing some shamanic drumming, and a girl that was singing. And it was like a freestyle meditation, okay? And so basically I close my eyes, and as soon as I close my eyes, I see these spirits, but like sitting like in a lotus pose, like meditating with a blue aura around. And then I saw him walking towards me, like standing up, and next to him there was some sort of extraterrestrial, I would say, also wearing a robe, like it was a purple robe in that case, and the head was like triangular with some sort of spike, and the face was like between green and gray. And well, take it for what it is. But when I asked, who are you, mentally, the answer that I got is that was Metatron. Metatron is like a supposed angel that is even mentioned in the Book of Enoch. And anyway, you would expect angels to be, beautiful, white with wings. But what I saw was some sort of extraterrestrial. But still, the feeling that I had was like a good feeling. Like, I didn't feel threatened, even though it was looking like not particularly beautiful according to my standards. But the funny thing is that was the first time that I was meditating and having such clear visuals. I had tried meditating many times and nothing was coming, maybe some light sometimes, but nothing else. And the other funny thing is that my friend, who was actually doing the initiation in agreement with the guru in India, she looked at me after the meditation. She said, I have something to tell you. I saw this Sananda dressed in red that actually materialized behind your back and put a hand on your shoulder saying, this is my worker. And I was like, whoa, interesting, because I was also seeing the same spirit, And then what happened is, in the matter of 3 days, I had some sort of shamanic sound healing session. I had already had this kind of sessions. I found that they were actually helping me expanding my, let's say, psychic perception and also feeling energies. I mean, the more I was doing this kind of sessions, the more I was feeling energy flowing through my body when I was doing the sessions. And sometimes it was so intense that I was feeling like my body was like spinning, almost like I was getting out of my body, but I was always remaining in my body. So what happened is 3 days after this meditation, I agreed with this Turkish lady who does this shamanic healing to do a remote session. It was already locked down, so we couldn't meet in person. So she said, okay, I have recorded this drumming on YouTube. You just click the link, and then after the session, after the music is over, you reconnect on Zoom and we talk. I said, okay. So I lie on my bed, I put my laptop on one side, and I close my eyes. The music is playing. For the first 5 minutes, nothing happens. And I start getting a little bit annoyed. Like, I always like to have experiences. And when I don't get something, I get a little bit. But then at a certain moment, I feel a sort of tingling in the tip of my fingers. And in the matter of few seconds, both my arms get paralyzed up to my shoulders. And then I realize something is happening. And then my head is sort of forced a little bit, also lifted up a little bit. And I feel this spinning sensation, almost if my body was on a rotating spinning wheel. And my eyelids start flickering like crazy in an uncontrollable way. And at the same time, the laptop that is broadcasting the music is also flickering, like almost like at the same time as my eyelids. And at that time, I see again the face of this Sananda. Then it disappears. I see a sort of portal, and I see some extraterrestrial, or what I perceived being extraterrestrial being. They were like white with a long neck, round eyes, and actually I already had seen these beings during a past life regression with the method of Dolores Cannon, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, like a few months before. So they were all around this portal, then they disappear, and then I see a line of different beings. They were all different colors and shape, but I focused especially on the last one, which was the mantis being that I already knew. So I figured out that these were basically all my spirit guides in a line, and they gave me some messages, okay? So once the music stopped, my arms immediately went back to normal. And then I immediately connected to my friend. I said, okay, I had this very, powerful experience. What did you see? And she said, well, at the beginning, I could not, she said, connect to your energy. All these energy healers, they always want to connect to your energy, clear chakras, whatever. But at a certain moment, basically, I saw like a golden being coming out of your root chakra and looking at me. And even in my mind's eye, I couldn't look at his face. It was too bright. So what happened is months later, like maybe 2 months later, I started meditating more regularly, let's say once a week or something, always in the same place. And one day I had a similar experience while meditating by myself. I start feeling these energies, my eyelids start flickering, I see a portal, and I see different beings. And that was the first contact that I had with the so-called Galactic Federation. I saw this writing, Galactic Federation, just like a sort of introduction. And then I see 2 groups of beings. They were looking like, let's say, 2 separate group of souls, like with robes and hoods. I couldn't distinguish the faces, okay? I could only see the color of their energy. On
Can
the
I
left,
ask you something?
sure.
The creatures with the robes and the hoods, were the robes and hoods dark colored?
No. So they were green on the left and they were blue on the right. And then I asked, who are you? And for the one on the left, I got Pleiadians. For the one on the right, I got Arcturians. But these were like just my first contacts. Then when I kept on meditating in the following days, also meeting with other people, other beings came, like Andromedans. I was seeing them like red. Antarians, I was seeing them brown. And then other beings like Syrians. Sometimes I was seeing individual entities, like in full details, like almost if I had them in front of me. And some other times I was just seeing a group of them. And I knew who they were, but I couldn't see the details. And the first time, let's say after my first experience, I had this extraordinary energy flowing. And actually, after 30-minute meditation, I could barely walk. I actually stood up with the intention of moving, and I couldn't walk. I had to wait a minute, And then I got the message that I had to try. I could use this kind of meditation with other people to heal them and to help them have the same experience. But so the day after, I said, okay, they told me that I have some healing abilities, okay? I would like to test it on myself first to be sure that also it's a real experience, And at the time, I had a 5-month-old inflammation of my ligaments on my left hand, on my left wrist. And it got so bad that sometimes I had troubles even lifting a cup, It was already the second time I had this kind of issue. And the first time I had to take a cortisone injection. This happened a year before. But this time I didn't want to take a cortisone injection. I said, okay, I keep on going, let's see. But it was already 5 months and still having pain. So I said, okay, if I can heal, can I get rid of this with just one meditation? So I go meditate in the day. I had similar visuals. I see again Pleiadians, Arcturians. When I finish the meditation, I hear almost like a voice in my head, like, check your wrist. And it's like, I check my wrist. I bend it in all possible direction. I put pressure. I lift things. And I was not feeling pain anymore. And since then, I haven't got the problem. It was basically some sort of chronic problem that was coming back and back, either on the right or the left. And I didn't get it anymore. So after that, I realized, okay, there is something going on. So I will follow the guidance. They tell me try with other people. So I start inviting friends one at a time. sitting next to me. Okay. And I said, okay, you don't have to do anything. Just close your eyes and accept to connect to whatever will come. So the friend comes. So the first friend that comes, I mean, we meditate together for half an hour. And then after she said, okay, I said, okay, what did you feel? Yeah, I felt some energies here and there. We start walking. At the certain moment, she looks at me almost like in panic. And she said, I cannot move anymore. I said, what do you mean? I cannot move. So I had to wait like maybe half a minute because she was completely paralyzed. She felt so much energy that she couldn't walk anymore. And then, yeah, I started doing meditation with groups. Then I started doing online meditation. So there were like maybe 10, 12 people with me meditating in a circle. And then there were maybe 10, 15 on the other side of the planet in United States or Canada. And the only connection was not even a eye-to-eye connection. I was just saying, we will meditate from this time to that time with this music. I share the link to the music. And then later on, they would reach out and say, okay, what was your experience? And yeah, they had similar experiences, feeling energies, seeing beings, and having spontaneous movement of their bodies. And I kept on going. So, I pair up with people who had similar experiences. And sometimes we do meditation together, in particular with this girl from Florida.
Do you ever have these experiences when you're not meditating?
I mean, feeling energy, no. I have to reach a certain,
When you were 8, then the first thing you saw was the sphere, correct, off the balcony?
It was not a sphere. When I was a child, you mean?
Yeah, off the balcony, the first clear.
It was not a sphere. It was like some sort of disc, but
a bubble. Like a bubble?
Not really. It was like a top. It was like a top, like this.
Okay,
and,
but you could see through it like a bubble.
I couldn't see through it, but when I was looking close to the object, when it was spinning, basically everything was distorted in the background.
Right.
Almost like
in the bedroom, not in the sphere, not in the object itself. Everything around.
Yeah, indeed. It was almost like it was in some sort of bubble,
Did it ever fade out and get strong again and fade out, like pulsate?
Well, no, it didn't pulsate. It was steadily spinning, but while spinning, it shrank in size.
Did you ever see any blue light at the same time?
No. It was the light was orange.
Did you feel anything around you like a pressure? No?
Not that I remember.
Okay, so when I was 7,
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I, we were looking out a window, and we were looking out the window because there was this blue circle, like a hula hoop. Remember the hula hoops? Like around, it was white and like a white and blue ring. And we were staring at it out the window. We used to leave our windows open. We didn't have air conditioning back in the day, so that's how we got our breeze. And there was nothing back there but alfalfa fields. I mean, it was a farm, a horse farm.
Yeah.
And after staring at it for a while, we then realized that in the room, there was this round sphere that looked like a bubble. And we could see through it. And we had the weirdest feeling that when we looked into it, that we could see somewhere distant.
Oh, wow.
And somewhere distant could see us. It was the strangest thing, to the point where, we stayed still under the blanket and stuff because it was I don't know why it bothered us so much. It was basically just a bubble. Yeah. But what's interesting, though, it was at the bottom of the room here, straight ahead near the window, and it slowly faded out and then came back, faded out and came back. And my brother and I were trying to decide, are these multiple, objects?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the same one fading and coming back again? And then it made a 90-degree turn and came down the wall. So it seemed intelligent to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, we could see inside it. And I don't know where I was seeing, but there was something moving. There was something going on. And we're later on, we talked about it. And we're like, what were we seeing? Mm-hmm. Because it was hollow and clear. We could see right through it to the wall. But yet there was this faint little area where you could see something. And then I remember all of a sudden, my brother says a light fired in the room. This was on a Discovery Channel show that they did years ago. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was wrapped with cellophane, like really tight. and then flipped upside down and inverted. And then my mother says what she heard was like a bunch of doors slamming, and I was no longer in the house.
Okay.
But we weren't asleep. We weren't meditating. That we were wide awake in conversation when it happened.
Well, I mean, when I saw the UFO when I was a child, I wasn't meditating for sure. And also when I was driving in UK, also I wasn't meditating. And also I had other significant encounters with UFO.
So it's not all when you meditate, though.
No, with the UFO, no. But
right. And when you were younger too, you said you woke up and there was like a figure at the foot of your bed.
This happened not to me. It happened to my uncle after he had the sighting in the same place.
It happens in your family then, and that's significant.
Well, I've got a question. I'm not done with my question yet. So what I was wondering is that being that we both kind of had kind of a similar scenario happen to us at a very young age, do you think that opened up something in you? Do you think that's where this all filtered, this all funneled into you, like something now, you're maybe a different person than you were then? Do you think something changed in you at that point?
That single event basically draw the path for my life, because then later on when I had to decide what to do, I said I want to study aerospace engineering because I want to be able to understand what I saw.
Well, not career-wise, really, but do you think like inside of you?
Yeah. At the time, let's say it helped me to always stay open to possibilities. And then I had other experiences, like what you could call something like abduction kind of experience. If you want, I can elaborate a little bit on that. So this happened. In 1999, 2000. It was my last year of university, and it happened 3 times in a row. I was still living in Italy, and what happened is I go to sleep, and then in the middle of the night, let's say, I wake up completely paralyzed, but I feel this very strong vibration through all my body, and also I hear a very high-pitched sound in both my ears that is increasing in frequency by the second, to the point that my head was like exploding. It was like, what the hell is going on? So first reaction again is like, oh, maybe it's like an earthquake, because I felt the vibration. But then I said, no, but the vibration is inside my body. And then this high-pitched sound. So what I did, I panicked and I prayed, and the experience stopped immediately. Second time, few weeks later, same experience. Third time, in the meantime, I went on Alta Vista, searching a bit around what people were saying. And of course, apart from the, let's say, neurologist that says maybe you have some brain dysfunction and whatever, then you find people into spirituality or esoteric practices that say, maybe it was you are trying to get out of your body. It's an intermediate phase before getting out of your body. And others, they speak about abductions. But then I said, yeah, abduction, but I didn't see anything. I was just feeling this. And then later on, so for some years, nothing happened. Then like 5-6 years later, I was already in Belgium, similar experience, but this time I don't panic. This time I try to control the experience. So I was like, okay, this time I don't panic. I'm shaking. I'm feeling this. I want to see if I get out of my body, and but the experience stopped. And the last time, actually, my ex-girlfriend was sleeping next to me, and she woke me up, and she said, and I said, what happened? Yeah, you were shaking. Yeah, I said, yeah, I was feeling this vibration. I was also hearing the sound. I have to say, so at the time, I wasn't convinced of what was this experience about. When I went to have this session with Elizabeth April in LA, she told me, by the way, that experience that you had, they told me that it was energetic atonement. So what they did, they took your astral body, energy body, not your physical body,
right,
brought it somewhere, and they were actually upgrading your system. And but I didn't know who did it. And then I figured out who did it later on. So after I started having these experiences with the Stargate meditations, I had another session with another channeler who is called Indigo Angel. She also is very knowledgeable with Stargates, with the Akashic records and stuff. And she told me, I had a reading with her. I didn't say anything about my sleep paralysis experiences. And she said, by the way, you got abducted by Arthurians since when you were a child. And then I understood, okay, probably I don't remember what happened when I was a child. I don't have conscious experiences, memories of what happened when I was a child. I certainly remember what happened when I was 25, you know. But now I know that it was Arthurians. And that also explains why my first contacts, the first time that I saw something, it was Pleiadians, to which I already knew I was connected, and then Arthurians, because they were also being around. I mean, they have been around me since I was a child. And I have had experiences of the kind also more recently, like during the last 2 years. I had one experience in which I wake up and I know I'm paralyzed. I'm fully conscious, and I feel my body rotating. And this time I don't panic because I in the meantime I experienced so much. I was like, okay, do whatever you want. You have my permission. And then I fall asleep. Another time I wake up and I feel my body as is shaking from one side to the other very violently. And actually I sort of panicked. But at that time I tried to access my mind's eye and see who I had around. And I saw nothing. And I was like, I want to see, show yourself. And then on one side, I see these three beings that were also wearing like gray robe and they had blue heads. And then I said, okay, I trust you. You can do what you want. And then I again fell asleep immediately. And yeah, so that was interesting.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Some people who don't have these experiences may think that some of the visions you're having are dream state, that they're coming from the mind out of wishful thinking or perhaps imagination. Can you elaborate why they are not?
Yeah, that's why I was asking you too earlier if this happened when you were conscious too, because then that puts that to bed, the idea that that might be a possibility.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah, this direct contact that I had with UFOs and also these experiences that I've described now, they definitely open something also on a psychic level, let's say on an extrasensorial perception. But also, I did past life regression, so I did under hypnosis and always had quite some experience there. I had all this energy healing session with sound, with shamanic sound, and basically, what from the beginning, what made me think that it was real, well, apart from the healing that I described, it was not the only one. I also had other kind of healing, for instance, of a skin infection later on. But was the fact that I was feeling these extraordinary energies flowing to my body, and then when I was doing meditation with other people, they were having the same experience, to the point that, as I said, the first person that meditated with me, she was stuck for like half a minute without being able to move. So that helped,
Have you ever experienced maybe like a lot of people I talk to, and even my son does this, will be driving down the road and street lights will pop or go out as you're driving down the road. Melanie Kirchdorfer, who I know, sometimes she'll just affect a radio station, things like that. And then there's other times where, we'll just be in the car and we'll be talking about a song we want to hear and it comes on the radio. There's all these little, we were talking about, coincidental events that happen, right? And it does seem to happen, more than people realize. It happens to a lot of us. And it's not just within us, things around us happen. So I want to show you something. So this article about our case, which was written, it was in the Boston Globe.
Okay.
That date, it came out on my father's birthday. When my father lost his life, it was on the anniversary of our case being mentioned at the United Nations. And when the governor inducted our case into history, he did it on my mother's birthday.
Yeah, it's hard to think that there are only coincidences.
So there's a lot of weird things that happen within us too, but it seems like we affect things from outside of us as well.
Kind of like when I was saying that the Phoenix Lights happened on my birthday, March 13th, 1997, and you met Sananda or saw the picture of Sananda on March 13th, 2020, or 2000. Yeah, 2020, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's weird that it's on my birthday. What are the odds?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's more than just a dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot going on here.
let's call it the universe talks to you through signs, and
Right.
it has its own language. You have to understand, the way these higher intelligences
Well,
communicate with you.
right.
Because
And
also,
understand it. Right.
yeah,
I'll say one more thing just before I forget, because I was
sure, go ahead.
So the first experience anyone in our family had was my mother, and she was 15 in 1954. And then when we bought our house, it was 1594 Boardman Street.
Huh.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's crazy, you know? And so those kind of things have been following us our whole life, these weird type of things. And I used to have like paranormal types of events in my home. And I had gone by a store that had this carving of an Egyptian dog. And it was like calling my name. Every time I walked by the store, I would see it in the window. I'm like, I want it, but it was like $2,000. It was one of those, freight type places where they have weird things from all over the country. And it was just sitting there. And it finally went on sale, and I bought it. And once I put it in my house, I've had no more paranormal activity in my home. So I don't know if these things are just, sometimes I wonder, is it me? Am I just, wishful thinking, or is it a coincidental type of thing? Or is there really something to it? So does something happen to us when we have these experiences? Does something open into us, and then maybe subconsciously we think of something, we manifest it, we make it happen? Or
I think in some cases, maybe in some cases you can think it works like that, but in some other cases, I think it's really like signs from desire intelligences that are around us. So, and the thing is, they don't want to be the good ones, so to speak. Don't want to be too intrusive. They respect your free will, and they follow a principle of non-intervention. But now and then they drop some sign just to guide you a little bit. Then you can miss the sign, and then maybe you go down a road which is dangerous. And then eventually you get signs to go back to where it should be. I had a lot of experiences. Also, I had some sort of situation in which I almost died, and something happened that clearly indicates some sort of intervention. So I had like at least 3 cases that I remember. One was like once I was crossing the street in front of the university, and there were like 4 lanes of cars, right? 2 on one side, 2 coming from the left, and 2 coming from the right. So there was no traffic light. But everybody, let you pass typically because you're in front of the university. There is a pedestrian path. So I just, I crossed the first 2 lanes. I crossed the third one, and then I got a cramp in my kidney. In my knee, and then I stopped. I didn't step. In that moment, a car passed from the last lane full speed. So if I had been hit at that speed,
it would have hit you.
Yeah. So, and this was one event. Then another event was in South Africa. We were driving, along the coast, and at a certain moment we noticed that there was a cluster of whales that have really approached the cliff. So everybody like jump out of the car, run to the cliff to see this magnificent, view. And I was the last one running towards the cliff. When I arrive, running, I bump into some sort of rock or something, and I lost my balance. So I had this fraction of the moment in which I saw myself falling down because I was beyond the point of balance. There was no way with that momentum to stop. And what happened is that I felt a force in the middle of my chest, like a wind that pushed me backward on my feet. And then I had the third case, which is more recent. So basically, I was getting into the highway here in Belgium, and I was turning left. I was using a GPS, and it was covering part of my visual in the car. And so basically, I just turned left. I couldn't see that there were two cars coming full speed. I'm talking about maybe 70 miles per hour, something like that. Not just one, two. And for a moment, I thought I'm dead. And then I found myself on the other side. And because of the distance between me and these two cars that I hadn't seen, I find it impossible to believe that they managed to slow down, because I just jumped in front of them and they were coming full speed, you know? And so when I ask to my contacts, they tell me they sort of intervene to change the time.
It wasn't something you felt and changed yourself. It was just something that took place which prevented something catastrophic.
Yeah. And so after having had this experience with the UFO, in which I see this time, like 15 minutes became 1 minute in my phone, then I start understanding that, you know, they have this ability to do whatever they want with time. So
when my son was born, when he was maybe, God, I'm going to say, I don't know, maybe 4 months old, you know, he slept in a crib and had his kind of his own room off the master. And my wife and I were sleeping, and we just all of a sudden woke up in the middle of the night having the same dream. And we knew it had to do with our son. So we bolted out of the bedroom, ran across the living room. The bent rocker, remember those wooden rockers that had the bent, you know, the rounded type of, it was yeah. It was moving in the living room. All the cabinet doors were open in the kitchen. Every single one of our cabinet doors were open. We bolted into my son's room, and now he was face down with blood coming out of his nose. And there was no way, he was too weak to turn himself over.
Okay.
And ever since, you know, we've had him, taken him to the doctor. He's got a hole in his sinus cavity. He's got like a membrane. Sometimes it would come out of his nose. But the thing is, just to I don't talk about it because it sounds so bizarre. So here we are, you know, 30 years old or whatever, sleeping. We have the same dream. We wake up, go across the living room. The rocking chair is moving. All the cabinet doors are open in the kitchen. And my son, who was too weak to turn himself over, was face down. You know, like, so I'm kind of getting what you're saying on a lot of these things. And I try to make sense of it because, you know, I know what I think is happening, but it doesn't,
you know,
I'm not one to know everything, you know what I mean? But I process, I take in, I listen to everybody, because there's a lot of things I'm connecting with you and a lot of other guests that come on here, and even people in chat. You know, I kind of connect with what's happening, what people are saying. And there's a lot of things that I don't say, and then I hear it again, and I'm like, man, you know, it's like you said, you don't talk about things sometimes because, right, it sounds so far-fetched, but it happens, and it does happen.
For many years, I was just, you know, observing the experiences. I knew that I was having extraordinary experiences, so to speak, but I wasn't really talking to anybody, maybe my parents, but not even friends, you know, because, yeah, I don't know. It was just, I was surrounded by engineers and physicists, you know, it was a bit difficult. And then sometimes
fact-based people, fact-based.
I have to say the wind is changing. Even in my own team, I have some students that are interested in UFOs, even watched some previous interviews that I did or tried my meditation. Even my boss, even though he doesn't believe too much when I talk about the ability that I have of seeing past lives and doing this meditation to heal people, he was sort of interested. He didn't say, you are crazy, you know? So something is changing, like secretaries that do Reiki and they have contact with spirits or have memories of past life. You know, something is really like, you know, the veil between the realities is getting thinner. And of course, the more information come out, the more people can realize that there is more to this reality than what we can see with our senses, you know? So
right.
Do you think by meditation you can shut it off? I mean, I know that I'm sure that, you know, at times, you know, you can welcome things. Do you think you can stop things? Do you think you can shut things off? Do you think you can shut that door?
Why would I do it?
It's not a matter of if you want to. I'm just asking, do you think you have that strength? Do you think you could control your body enough to be able to open and close things? I mean, meditation and thought.
The way it works for me is that I have experiences when I ask for, like, if I close my eyes and I decide to connect, then
Yeah.
whatever I feel a sort of electrical impulse, like a little current flowing through my body, and I know that I'm connected. But it's me deciding. I know people, for instance, who had maybe a more non-organic, so to speak, opening of these abilities,
Yeah.
and maybe using plant medicine or stuff like that, and they cannot control it as well. Like maybe sometimes they see too much,
Yeah.
and or maybe they see dark entities or stuff and they get scared. Like
Well,
for
yeah.
me, I decide when to have an experience. So, and also I do sessions one-to-one to people, and I've seen really a lot of stuff. Sometimes I even got attacked by some entities, and typically the attack, in my case, come in a physical form. Like I get a huge headache, or for instance, I get a very strong pain coming out of nowhere, for instance, in both my kidneys at the same time, or elsewhere. And then I know that I'm dealing with something, but I also know the tools to fight it off. So typically I go lying down, I close my eyes, I see who I have around, I call in the good ones, and then I let energies flow through my body, and then I get rid of the thing.
Do you keep your eyes closed the whole time, or do you open your eyes and or how do you?
Let's say I prefer to do everything with eyes closed, not to, let's say, it's like a practice that I have. Probably I'm restricting my abilities maybe, but I prefer to stick to what works for me. So I prefer to just, relax.
Do you go to a certain spot? Do you just picture a dot and go there? Where do you take yourself?
I don't take myself anywhere. I just set the intention to connect, and then I connect, and then I typically if I have some question, I pose the question. Sometimes I get an answer, sometimes I don't get an answer, or sometimes I'm just open. It's like, okay, what is the message of the day? Or sometimes it's a visual, sometimes it's nothing, sometimes is something like, I don't know, a political. They focus my attention on some political event because I have to focus some good energy to that meeting. I get, let's say, for as crazy as it sounds, sometimes I get some sort of spiritual missions. They tell me go to places, typically not alone. I go with a friend. For instance, recently this year we went twice to Paris in two specific places where we have stuff to do, and then we went also to Marseille and in another little village. Also in Belgium, we went to some sites. Typically, they send us there to release some trauma, some, let's call it dark energy that has been created through rituals in some specific spots. And being in Brussels, which is the capital of politics in Europe, there is a lot of darkness in here. All the most powerful people, businessmen, politicians, they do crazy stuff. Maybe we don't want to elaborate on that. And but apart from that, there are other sites which historically have hosted some sacrifice. For instance, in front of the Notre Dame of Paris. I speak of this event because I was actually involved on many levels for this. But basically, in the past, they have sacrificed some Templars. So they were burning these Templars. And so basically, one of the missions that we got is to go there on a specific date and release some energy for fragments of souls of these Templars that got sacrificed, because it was creating trauma in people that are now reincarnated on this planet, and they used to be Templars, including myself actually. And so we did something. I mean, the number of synchronicities which is related to this specific event is incredible. I could list them, but what I can say is that once we finish the mission, once we finish what we wanted to do, we look in the sky, and there was some sort of cloud that looked like an angel. I actually have pictures of that. That was appearing, like entering in the cathedral. And apart from that, for instance, before going to Paris, they asked me to bring a specific crystal that I got years ago by a friend. And I was like, why do they want this specific crystal to be brought there? And then there was this fact that they wanted me to go on the 15th of April. Why? Because on the 15th of April 2019, the Notre Dame actually was set on fire. I mean, there was this fire in Paris. I don't know if you remember, but on 2019, and then I was like, why do they want me to bring this crystal? And then I go checking my WhatsApp conversation with this friend, back to the point in which we were discussing her giving me this crystal. And guess what? She gave me the crystal in the night between the 14th of April and the 15th of April 2019. So there was, some connection that I don't know, some connection that I couldn't see with this specific gift that was. And so, yeah, all this kind of stuff is like, too much coincidences for being,
Right. Wow, that's a lot to have inside of you and take in as a layperson. I mean, I'm just starting to investigate the consciousness expansion route. So I have to say that's a lot. I would like to show a picture that you gave me before the live stream of what appears to be a ghost cat. Here it is.
Yeah, so I will also show a video about this because you really have to see the video. But I want to explain a bit the background. So on the 21st June 2020, so I did one of the Stargate meditation with 7 friends, all women, in the park. And basically during that session, a lot of these beings spoke through one of these friends that went into trance channeling. Actually, this friend was the same one that gave me the initiation to Shaktipat. And she was the only one that was actually channeling these beings. And they were speaking their own language, but also English now and then, giving some guidance. At the beginning, they guide us through some visualization of a Merkaba and through some activation of our light body. And then during the meditation, actually, during the first meditation, because we did 2, my body was shaking like crazy, and I was feeling this very intense energy. Once we finished the meditation, which was about 20 minutes, I have all the audio in which you can hear my friend talk and everything. I'm like exhausted. I could barely breathe, and all my muscles were totally tensed because of this. Because I was constantly closing my fist while this energy was flowing through me, and I couldn't walk for like 5 minutes. Then I take a walk. Let's say 20 minutes later, we start meditating again because we wanted to connect to get more information from these beings. And again, my friend gets into trance channeling state. She channels a message for me. These guys wanted to tell me something, okay? I won't elaborate about that at this moment. But so after the meditation, I go back home, and in front of the door of my house, I find a neighbor with whom I never had interaction, actually. And she said, well, somebody saw my cat enter in your house. Actually, that day I left the window open on the window on the street, and I was like, okay, yeah, but you see, I mean, it's really hard for a cat to enter through. There was really almost no space. But anyway, I said, okay, look, we go inside, we look everywhere, and let's see if your cat is in my house. So room by room, basement, we didn't find any cats. And then, so she went home, and I had a second look everywhere. So what I did is I was entering a room, locking the door, and then checking everywhere. I don't have so much furniture at home. Even in the basement, I only have one single box. For the rest, there is really little space for a cat to hide. And so I didn't find any cat. After 2 days, I meet again in the street, which was also coincidental because I never met this neighbor, and suddenly I met her again. And she said, your cat, my cat is still in your house. I said, no, look, there is no cat in my house. And again, I go back home, check again, nothing. And then the day after, I finally found some sign of life. So it was already 3 days. I find one of my trash bags completely ripped off. And also find poo, and this was on the ground floor. And then I found poo on the second floor. All the doors were closed, but somehow, I said, okay, there is a cat. So what I do is I put my laptop on a chair in my living room, and I recorded during the whole night, like 9 hours. I put some food to be sure to attract the cat, right? The morning after, I look at the recording, and after 1 hour, I see that a cat is entering the space and eating. So I said, wonderful, the cat is here. So I give a call to the lady. She comes, she takes the cat. The cat was sort of traumatized. She was not making any eye contact, and it was completely not moving. Even when the cat was put in the cage, it was like staring staring in the emptiness. It wasn't, so. But then later on, I look at the video, and I noticed this crazy thing. So at a certain moment, the video freezes for like 6 minutes, and then suddenly it goes like 100 times faster, and you see a cat just for a fraction of a second in the middle of my living room, and then if you stop at a certain moment, you see the pattern on my floor, and you see this transparent cat. So this cannot just be a glitch, because normally if you stop a video, snapshot by snapshot, you see if there is a cat, you see the cat in different position, but you see the cat. Here it's like a transparent cat. So if you allow me, I will show the video. It will play first at normal speed, and then it will play 100 times slower, so that you can see the cat in one position.
Okay, you can bring it up. Go ahead.
I'm looking for it. Let's see.
Do it under present.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Cat. What is it?
Tom, have you seen any ghost animals?
Animals? Yeah, I've talked about it before. I had that the worker had left his tool bag here, and he knocked on the door, and he went to come in the house, and all of a sudden I saw this black shadow shoot across the wall. He slams the door because he thought the cat was going to run out the front door, and it went this smudge marker about the size of a loaf of bread went right up the staircase. Like I said, there's an awful lot that that resonates. I'm not feeling the best. I got a sinus thing going on, so if I don't sound myself, that's why. But we've had a lot of odd things like that have to do with animals and pets and sounds and just visions and things that happen, like the street lights just popping. One time, just real quick.
Yeah,
so one time,
sure.
Oh, you got it. Okay, we'll do this first. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so at the beginning is a normal speed. Beautiful cat, by the way.
Yeah.
You have to consider that this was a $6,000 laptop that I bought only 2 months before. I didn't install any software which was not native of the system. So this is QuickTime Player, and on top of that, I have 64 gigabytes of memory, so enough to. Anyway, so basically, the image froze for like 6 minutes. And then after that, it will go super fast. You have to look in the middle of the room, like just before the drums. So we're getting there. You see on the top left, you see the original, right, sorry. You see the original timing. And when you reach 1 hour, 4 minutes and something, then the cat will disappear and appear just for a fraction of a second in the middle of the room. So just focus in the middle of the room. It's about to come. Now.
Yep, saw it.
And then if you slow down, and then if you continue the video, basically it will slow down 100 times. So now the cat basically comes back normal speed. Looks like he's investigating a little bit the drum. And okay, this is still a normal speed. Then it's almost coming. Sorry. I could have shortened it a little more, but okay, now it should start. Just slow down. Okay, so now, okay, so this is slow down 100 times. That's it. There is only one frame in which you see the cat. And yeah, and my point, what I believe is that I got some sort of quantum effect on camera. And basically, you know, it's like the computer, the laptop was an observer that was perceiving a sort of linear time. But if you would check, I mean, and the cat was perceiving a different kind of time, you know. It's like there is some inconsistency between what the cat, the reality around the cat and the reality that the laptop perceived, because, I don't know, because something happened. And as I said, this, according to me, is connected to this contact that we had in the park only a few days before. So after that, I started meditating with the intention of triggering these kind of effects. So basically, they were suggesting me a specific visualization which consisted in visualizing a sort of machine in my heart spinning. I was doing meditation, sometimes of 10 minutes, sometimes of 30 minutes, or maybe during Reiki session with a friend. And I got other effects like this on camera. So I can show you just another one, if you allow me.
Sure.
So present. So this one is called Time Experiment. Okay, so this one is slow down, I think. Okay, so this is the slow down version.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it was kicked off by the energy, maybe. Well,
I don't know.
because now it's working nicely, but it was like no stop.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyway, I think probably they were working on our bodies again.
Okay, so sorry,
right?
this one was
now it's back.
the normal speed. So basically it goes super fast, but the interesting part is the other video in which I slow it down, and you will see something interesting. Let's see, it's this one, I think. Let's slow down. So basically, you see,
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it was kicked off by the energy, maybe. Well,
I don't know.
because now it's working nicely, but it was like no stop.
Yeah.
here slow down like 4 times. There are moments in which you see
Anyway, I think
which are both transparent. So in the same frame, you see me transparent in 2 different positions. And I know, I mean, I could manipulate a video doing overlays and do something like that using transparency and overlays. I could try to do something, but this came out in the original recording, and a video recorder shouldn't do this kind of, shouldn't give this kind of glitches. And I have many of these cases. So the dynamics is always the same. Either during the meditation or immediately after, the video freezes, and then there is this super fast movement. And if you slow down, you see different version of me transparent. And yeah, and then another time I was meditating, and the meditation was only 8 minutes. So right before right before the meditation, this friend in Florida was sending me a message. Then she was sending a message during the meditation, and then one immediately after. So all the messages before and after the meditation were perfectly synchronized. So if you look at the minutes, they were exactly at the same minute. I mean, the hour is different because there were 6 hours of difference because of the time zone, but the minute was the same, right?
Right.
The only message that she sent me during the 8 minutes of the meditation was like 3 minutes shifted in time. Either less or more. I don't remember exactly but so that was very weird. And then, okay, so I reproduced the phenomenon over and over again, and at the end I stopped trying because I sort of got. I mean, I couldn't really choose what kind of effect to trigger, but I was always triggering some effects, and so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing all that with us. One thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap this up is the Akashic record.
Yes.
What is the Akashic record in your own words?
Well, the simplest definition I could give is like a cosmic version of internet. So it's a sort of database for the history of consciousness, which is sort of encoded in some energy field that you can access through practices like meditation, hypnosis. There are also other ways, for instance, with plant medicine during shamanic ritual, you can also have this kind of connection. And for me, the way I started accessing them, the first time was through meditation. I met two girls that were learning to play with this, looking for information about their past lives. And one of them gave me a book that I kept there without opening for many months. But then I met another girl that had just had a session, let's say, with some psychic in Bulgaria, whatever, in which she had learned to access this record, and she had a very powerful experience. So I said, okay, I want to try by myself. So I went home, I had this book, I started reading, and there was an exercise. It was a meditation exercise that was forcing you to visualize something just to put you in a right state. And then the experience flows by itself. So I did this experiment, and what happened is, so among the things that I asked, the first one was, okay, I was seeing some sort of spirit guide. I was asking, what is the name of the spirit guide, and where am I coming from? And the two words that I got in my mind, in my empty mind, kind of, I was in sort of meditative state, were Andronia and Sagittarius. I switch on the lights, I go on Google, I put Andronia Sagittarius. And what happened is the first link that I found was like, meet your spirit guides. So I was like Googling two random words, and it was basically giving me an answer connected to what was my question in first place. And then I said, okay, I want something more specific, maybe more verifiable. I would like to know about my last life on Earth. What was my profession, my name, my surname, and my date of death? So in my empty mind, while brushing my teeth, keeping all the lights off, I get an image of war. So I see two soldiers wearing a helmet, like in the First World War or something. And then Charles, which was supposed to be the name. And then the surname appeared like spelled letter by letter, Dempsey. And then the date of death, 1941. So I said, okay, let's check. So basically, if you put Charles Dempsey, 1941, you find this U.S. colonel that actually is not an historical person. You don't find him in history books, but if you go in website like Find Grave that record the history of all the Americans during the last 300 years, you find some information about this guy. And what's the chance? And then if you check a bit in the few information that you find about him, he had a son who died prematurely because this guy lived till he was 90 something. His son died in his 20s. He was also military, and he died on the 19th February. And I actually am born, I was born on 19th February. So that was also another confirmation for me.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then I did some past life regressions under hypnosis, which according to me helped me to open up this channel to the point that once I started meditating and connecting to this being, I also realized that I could access memories of past lives, not just for me, but also for other people. And if you want, I just give you a couple of examples to understand how you can verify some of this information. It's again through some of these synchronicities, but some are really so crazy that you cannot really believe it's just a coincidence. So I tell you this example. So I develop again this sort of skin infection that I mentioned before. And the previous time, I actually got it healed after a session with this girl doing shamanic healing. After one single session, basically all the blisters, all the stuff that I had in my leg disappeared. And I was like, oh, wow. 1 year later, I got again the same skin infection. And I decided to ask her help again. But in the meantime, I had already started doing this meditation and this connection to this being. And I was also starting accessing my memories of past life. I do the session remote, so as other times. And during this meditation, I basically see a life in which I was a prostitute. I was a young prostitute called Aurora Wilson, living in London, or let's say in some suburbs of London. And basically what happened is that I had been raped by a client of mine called Derek, D-I-R-E-K. And I got pregnant, and actually my child died face down in a pond during a walk, because basically we had a dog, and the dog ran away. I ran after the dog, and in the meantime, the girl entered into this pond and she drowned face down. It's a lot of information. So then what I got during this session is that when I would have met again this friend who was Derek in this life, my problem would have disappeared. So I have a conversation the same day. I have a conversation with this friend of mine who is in Florida, who is the co-host of my YouTube channel, by the way. She's a channeler as well. And I told her the story. I said, you know, I saw this past life in which you were actually Derek, and you raped me, and and she said, this is incredible. And she basically showed me the tag in the pants that she just got as a present from her daughter. It was called Derek. So what's the chance? And then what happened is that indeed we met after a month or something. We met in person, and a few days after we met, I realized that my skin infection had disappeared again. So, and then other times I did some session for her. She suffered from 8 kind of allergies from 8 kind of ingredients, like 6 kind of nuts, chocolate, and banana. So when I was doing sessions to her, I was seeing lives in which she had died, typically with traumas connected to that specific ingredient. For instance, there was a life in which she was a child, a toddler, like 2-3 years old in Ethiopia, and she liked to go looking for cocoa beans. So one day she was like stung by a bee. She got an anaphylactic reaction and she died. And when the parents found her, I was one of the parents. I don't remember if I was the mother or the father. There was a cocoa bean coming out of her hand. So after I told her this story, she started eating chocolate and she was not getting any allergic reaction. And when I'm talking about allergic reaction, I'm talking about blisters inside your mouth, on your body. For instance, for bananas, she was getting choking sensation. And after I gave a session like that, she could eat a full banana without getting anything. So this kind of stuff is powerful. and I'm not the only one saying that. Also, Dolores Cannon, with all the past life regression that she did, she was able to heal people from very serious diseases just by exposing some of these memory that were stuck in their soul.
Right. I've heard of that. It's DNA recognition, actually, and it's been proven in some cases that people show up with scars, unknown scars on their body, and they call them birthmarks sometimes, but they're actually, when they have a past life regression, they find out they were hit by an axe in that spot,
Yeah.
or they were shot by an arrow, or they were stuck by a spear or something, and they have those marks. And
I want to tell you
DNA.
just one story connected to this specific event. So there is another friend that I have in New Mexico, and I gave a session to this guy. And in one life that I saw, he was part of some sort of satanic cult in the 1800s. And basically, in the same satanic cult, there was also the spirit of, I guess you know him, Epstein. And in that life, what happened is that my friend wanted to leave the cult, but Epstein in that life convinced him to stay, but not because he was like in friendly terms with him, because he had some sort of debt. I mean, he had some sort of credit, and he wanted to get his money back. Once my friend gave him the money later on, then I see this image of him turning and let's say Epstein or whoever was in that time stabbing him in the middle of the back with a dagger. And then when I told this to my friend, he said, "This is so crazy because in the middle of my back, I have a scar, something that looks like a scar. And we always joke about the fact that it looks like the stabbing of a dagger." So interesting. I mean, at least interesting, yeah?
Yes. Okay, we're going to wrap this up for this evening. Dr. Lani, it was very nice hearing from you. We hope to have you back so we can dig deeper into this subject.
For sure.
Tom, any last thoughts?
No, it's just it's a lot, right? And it's interesting because there are so many you know, people I know that can relate to this as well, you know, and so anyway, with that, you know, thanks for coming on, and like Tim said, you know, come back on anytime, and maybe we'll be a little more prepared because you know, I wasn't quite sure we were going tonight. You know, I didn't know where to take it, so we just let you run with it, and I'm glad we did. So thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you had me here.
I really appreciate you being here too. We need to see you get out more on YouTube so that other people can hear your story and understand where you're coming from, because perhaps consciousness is the route in which we transcend our life the way we're living it now, because we need to ascend to a higher frequency to evolve. So thank you very, very much for coming. And from everybody on the panel, good night, and we'll see you next Saturday.